Yeah, I have everything premium here. Okay, let's welcome Mark to Lifestyle with Dr. Moby, and I'm Dr. Moby. And we are honored to have Mark here with us today, and let's hear from Mark. How are you doing, sir?
Good, good. How you doing today?
Good, good. Thank you for coming to our show. So tell us about yourself, Mark.
Well, guys, just in case you don't know me, my name is Marc Ritorto. I am a author of a few books. I actually got them right here. My first book is called "The Cabal: The Saga Begins," which is an action thriller suspense novel. So if you like movies with books with spies and action in it, that's this type of book. Then I also wrote another book called Marcus the Vampire, which is a vampire fantasy novel. They're both for sale on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com and on my website, which is retortofamilybooks.com. In fact, if you go to the website now, you can get a signed autographed copy of this book for only $8. If you go to www.retortofamilybooks.com. And I'm also a podcaster. I have my own show. It's called Mark the Shark MMA Show. I'm all over. That's why I podcast episode every Sunday, and I stream a live show every Saturday at 3:00.
Oh, 3 o'clock. Oh, we're on which time zone is that?
Yeah, Eastern New York City time. I'm on the East Coast of the U.S.
Okay,
So
so
that's
yeah.
like where I usually like I interview MMA fighters, or I recaps of certain MMA events, such as like the UFC with mixed martial arts experts. And in my podcast, I pretty much do the same thing. Sometimes I even do predictions. I try to predict who's going to win the next match and so forth.
Oh, so predict the next match. Okay.
Yeah, like I like to say, I think this guy's going to win, and I give my reasons why. I have like a couple analysts on the show. I actually interviewed a couple UFC fighters on my show. LA was just a show weeks ago. He actually just fought this past weekend in Abu Dhabi. Haven't to see the results if he won or not, because I only had time to watch the main event. But yeah, that's what I do.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. So you have definitely great. I mean, you have a great interest in writing, but do you only write about spies and those, or do you also write different other novels?
I pretty much stick to these two genres. Actually, it's a slow process. I've been slacking with work and then the COVID and everything like that. I've started the sequel to this one. So it's like an interesting book. It's got a few main characters in there. The main character, his name is John Esposito. His best friend happens to be a U.S. senator, dies. Takes place in Washington, D.C. And during the course of the investigation, he finds that it was part of a plot by a secret society called the Cabal. Mm-hmm. And during the course of the investigation, he meets people who were also affected by the same investigation, and they become friends. Mm-hmm. So they're a terrorist organization. At the end of the day, they save it. That's how the story goes. They save the world. And then the sequel goes on from that, but from a little different point of view. And my second book, and Marcus the Vampire, has to deal with, it's kind of unique because I take a bit of a real history. It takes place during World War II in Nazi Germany. Not too many people know about this, but a lot of people, obviously, the Nazi Hitler himself was known for crucifying a lot of people of Jewish descent. But what they don't know is he also crucified and tortured a lot of people of Romani descent, whereas also known as gypsies. With the general public knows the Romani people as gypsies. So I took it upon myself to write about the character in this book, and I thought, it was pretty cool that all right, I can write a little bit about history.
Uh-huh.
And what's really cool about it is that the gypsies are always in occult films, whether it has to do with vampires or werewolves. So I thought it made a good match.
Mm.
And in this story, he's plays a family man, Marcus Sanders, who gets captured, imprisoned in an Nazi camp, and everything gets taken away from him. The only survivor is his daughter. But
Mm.
while he was imprisoned, he got killed. At least so he thought. But what happened was his grandmother, who just happened to be a witch, put a spell on him, meaning that he can never die. So
Mm.
instead of dying, he becomes a vampire. So his whole purpose is to protect his daughter.
Mm.
Not Nazis, but from also the other creatures of what I call the dark world, which is vampires who are out to do him harm. So to answer your story, that's pretty much the two particular genres that I kind of stick with. I kind of got into writing late in
Mm.
life. Wasn't until a few years ago. Like the first book, The Cabal, I started probably like 15 years ago. But then I stopped. It had like a totally different storyline. Then I changed it. And how I got into this was that my daughter at the time, who was 10 years old, was really. And then one day, about publishing a book. She was like, "Really, we can do it?" Yeah. So I helped her publish her first book, which is called "I Am Survivor," and then she went on to write two more books. Her name is Christina Ritorto.
Mm.
Um, two more series. It's about a girl her age, who's a little shy, and it talks about how she deals with her shyness and makes friends in school. So it's really kind of unique storyline. So if people like follow her and this particular character, the character grows up,
Mm.
for as long as she keeps writing about the character, they'll find it pretty interesting. So it's geared about more towards like fifth and sixth graders. But that's how I got into it. I started writing. I remembered that I started a story and I never finished it. So let me finish it now. So that's what I did.
Okay, so but that is very interesting that you came up with an excellent plot. I mean, I'm sure you have inspiration from the real events, but you kind of had to create all that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a unique concept. Like the first book, The Cabal, was originally supposed to. I originally intended it to be just a story about a martial artist who was trained in jiu-jitsu. His character still exists in the book. His name is Tanaka. But I changed the story around to have it to be a murder investigation with a little bit of conspiracy around it to make the book a little more interesting. But at the time, I was both periods of when I was writing this book, I was going through different things going on in my life. Like the first, when I wrote The Cabal, I was dealing with a personal suffering from cancer, so it helped me deal with it to keep my mind off it. And then the second book, Marcus the Vampire, I was, for people who know me, I'm an avid martial artist. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. And at the time, I got really injured. So I used the idea of writing the book to keep my mind off my injury because I was sidelined. And I actually went back into training, and then COVID hit. So I've been out of training for a while. So it's kind of weird how you get certain inspirations to write certain stories, you know.
Yes, and imagine how much COVID will produce later in the years to come.
Yeah. It's been like a wild run so far with the COVID, right?
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, like everybody else, I was affected. I got laid off, but luckily I was luckily to get a job really quick. So I've been fortunate there. My jiu-jitsu school shut down. They reopened, but I just haven't been back because I'm not a young chicken anymore. So I don't know what's going to go on with this COVID thing. I'm trying to wait and see before I go back. But yeah, I got, for people who are experiencing it, it's a very rough time. And funny enough, one of my storylines um, for a sequel to Cabal was going to have to be with like some kind of virus.
Oh,
I just didn't go with that. Just before COVID, like I wrote down different different ideas, and I had my family vote on different ideas. Like, all right, one, the character's girlfriend gets captured. One, people are cloning people of with high political power influence, and then the other one was a virus. A little different. It was supposed to be done malicious, by an organization like maybe like the cabal or a government. But you never know. I could still use it.
so no, that is very fascinating. We had other day somebody movie writer, and he produced this movie on a pandemic. 2013, he wrote a plot and he shot that. 2014, as I think probably finished. It just released this week. uh, you know, uh, don't shoot me, something like, I think I had the name, I'll tell you. But it's interesting. He wrote everything, and that's about Philadelphia area. There was a pandemic, and then same, a lot of people got infected, and they will say, oh, those are poor population, let them die, and kind of don't worry about the numbers. So then, kind of, and yeah, it's amazing that those are, now you look at that time, it probably 2013, 2014, nobody would think of like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who would have thought, right?
Yeah,
Um, like something. Well, I guess Bill Gates thought of it, right? Like, I don't know if you
yeah,
follow the news. He actually thought that something like this was going to happen, but to the average layman like myself, I could have never imagined something like this happening. Would have figured, all right, maybe another war going on during this time, but never something like this. I mean, I just feel bad for the generation of kids. Hopefully, this thing subsides, but if it continues on, I think with the homeschooling and everything like that, I think they're going to be suffering a little bit from an academic standpoint. I think it's important to have kids in the classroom and socialize with other kids their age. So I honestly feel that if it continues, hopefully it doesn't, that would be a travesty to the younger generation, especially to the younger kids, like under the age of, in kindergarten or pre-K. I think it's important for them to get a hold of the socialization skills. It'll only benefit them in the long run. Now, as far as economic impacts, that's to be seen as to what's going to be happening. But hopefully this ends soon. Hopefully they come up with a vaccine. Although I know it won't be the end all cure all, because of different strains of the viruses. But at least it'll be something. Give us hope. So.
Well, I mean, knowing that flu virus, those coronaviruses, they pretty much mutate, and then they're going to mutate. So it's already mutating, I think, mutated already. And then there's kind of mutations. Already in Europe, there's a second wave. And the question is, you know, if they mutate drastically, sure. Well, usually they don't, but there's definitely benefit, from shot. So like flu shot, you get lesser flu even if you catch, but it's not that you don't catch. It's not gonna happen. There's no
Yeah.
vaccine which is called 100%. And there was
Yeah.
maybe small, but best scenario is 50-60% better, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, luckily I got my flu shot this year, right?
Yeah, and but still, even if you get shot, still, you don't want to be sick.
Yeah. But it still remains to be seen as to what's going to happen. But like I said, hopefully it all works out for the best. I'm sure there's some individual or a corporation. Here comes my conspiracy buff. is benefiting from this somewhere, somehow, right? Just don't know it, but I'm sure someone is. Unfortunately, on the back of everybody who's lost their life or their loved ones. But yeah, what happens?
Well, I'm sure you saw that writing also. Somebody wrote about this virus in 20, sorry, uh, 20, 30 years ago, and they wrote a book, and it was same Chinese province, and they said the virus will be, gone all of a sudden. But they even named the same province, Wuhan. So you read that?
Yeah, I think I heard about that. Yeah, it's like someone wrote it in a book, right? Like you're saying. I
Yeah.
didn't know how long ago it was written, but
30 years ago,
that's like
and they wrote
amazing.
the same province of China, and they said
Yeah,
it's going to come, and then but that's actually, you can say, like, now you're writing. So that's what happens, with creativity. You mix that with your intuition, so you come up with some a kind of really uh, you know nice things to kind of which can pretty much predict. I think I had a couple of guests here, and they say, you can read the trend in last 2 years, 3 years, and he was talking about a lot of animals leaving Yellowstone, and as you know, Yellowstone has a lot of volcanoes, so they are sensing there are changes already happening. So if we read those changes and we write or predict that, it could be, we don't want that be a doomsday, but probably it is kind of mix of intuition, creativity.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully this comes around. But
Yeah.
part of me tends to think that all right, it may have been done in the lab, or there's some speculation in there. But a part of me also thinks that we kind of done this to ourselves, right? So just like like the global warming and all that, right?
Yeah.
There's some people that will say, "Hey, there's no global warming, there's nothing going on." But then you look at what's going on in California now with all the fires, and then you got in Colorado. I mean, you're in Washington D.C. I'm in Jersey, right? I always say, "Hey, I would like to move out, to California, or Colorado, where it's supposed to be like good, good environment to live." Different from Jersey. But now you don't know where to go, right? I mean,
Yeah, you don't know
a
where to
long
go.
time ago, it was just earthquakes you got to worry about. Now you got like wildfires and going off in different states. You got like tropical storms that are going on. I think there's one that we're getting the after effects of one storm together, like doing damage to. I just can't get the name of it right now. We're getting the that's why we're getting so much rain in the last few days, is because of it. But then you get all those worldwide floods and natural disasters. So yeah, in some ways, I think we've kind of done this to ourselves. Like I don't know if you remember, uh, in the '70s, they had like this Native American Indian in a commercial, and it had to do with pollution.
Mhm.
And people were walking around with masks, right? Because the environment was damaged. And at
Yeah.
the end of the commercial, you saw the tear coming down the guy's eyes, and it was because of pollution. That commercial was in the '70s,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
40 years later, we're walking around with masks. Now, my fear is like if this keeps getting worse, right? Well, people are complaining about wearing a mask. Now, what happens if the environment gets worse and we constantly have to wear masks because you can't breathe? I mean, hopefully it doesn't happen, but you never know, right? So again, that's this conspiracy buff in me, but you never know, right? Like they were
Well,
saying, like this might have been the Chinese government probably putting together like a bioweapon. We don't know. Could be true.
yeah,
Or
could
maybe
be.
we meant to tell them and it backfired and then went all, and then spread. Like we went over there to get them and then we're just blaming them. Who knows? Right?
But main thing is, those they keep experiment. It's like people release python in Florida, right?
Yep.
And look at now the Everglades, everything, the pythons ruined everything. Of course, nobody created Python, but they probably released at the wrong place.
Yep. Yep.
So now it's very hard to get rid of that. I mean, no matter how many snakes they kill, it'll still be there. It changed the whole thing. Same thing. We create we mess up things, but it doesn't mean that we created them, but probably messed up. Same for planet too, right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's just the way it goes, you know. But that's why it's important for people to read a good book,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, read
If
the
you
book.
want
Yep.
escapism, like these two books,
Yeah, yeah,
it's always kind of an escape, right? Whether
yeah,
it's watching TV or doing a sport, playing a musical instrument, or a good book to read, you know, or listening to a good podcast, right?
yeah, yeah. Listen to your, and you can tell your podcast again, so they can check you out too.
Yeah, yeah. If you go, if the name of the podcast is Mark with a C, the Shark MMA Show, and I got a website set up.
Yeah, give me
It's
your
called
website. I'll put it down.
www.marksharkmmashow.com. Yeah,
So www dot.
www.thesharkmmashow.com. You can listen to it pretty much anywhere: Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio. Uh, I recently submitted. Supposedly, I don't know if you noticed, Amazon is actually going to be start doing podcasts too.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have my podcast is on it.
yeah, I actually just submitted it a few days ago, but you know, it's all over the place. Podbean, Anchor, Radio Public. Uh, but like you know, the big also you know big focus more on the big name. It's like Spotify, Radio. That's where I usually tell people to go. But you can also go on my website. You know, and listen to podcasts there. And then like on Saturdays, you can click on the Live Now section of my podcast, and you'll see me stream live on there. So that's pretty interesting.
Hmm. Well, it was a pleasure having you today, and but also tell me any final thoughts you have for our audience, and then we'll check out.
For anybody who's looking for a good book to read, whether depending on your choice of taste, again you got the Cabal, The Saga Begins. It's an action thriller suspense novel. You can get it on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com or on my website, RitortoFamilyBooks.com. You can get an special autograph copy if you click on the autograph copy of the book link, and you can get it for $8. And again, it's about a detective who loses his best friend, and during the course of the investigation, he discovers that the senator, his best friend, was murdered as part of a conspiracy plot by a secret organization known as a Cabal. They're a terrorist group, and their plans were to rule the world. And John Esposito and his friends in this book today. And you got Mark the Vampire, which takes place during World War II, prison, and becomes a vampire. And through his tragedy, the only thing he lives for is to protect his daughter, Christina. And along the way, he meets a person who becomes his very best friend, who was also in a concentration camp, but they met at different times. His friend Eric, and they develop a very strong bond, and they just do nothing. They will not stop at nothing to protect his daughter, Christina, from the creatures of the dark world. And if you're into mixed martial arts, and if you're looking for a good podcast to listen to every Sunday, I issue a brand new podcast episode. It's called MarkTheSharkMMAShow.com. And on Saturdays, I stream live on my website and at twitch.tv/MarkTheShark. That's my live MMA show. And like I said, I got it on YouTube. Mark the Shark Show on there. You'll see a couple of my previous interviews I've done with several UFC and Bellator fighters. as well as some amateur fighters. So if you happen to be an amateur MMA fighter and you're looking to promote yourself, hit me up on my website. I'll get you an interview for free. And that's pretty much it. Also, feel free to look at the websites too. At all, my dark hoodies, t-shirts, hats, name I got.
That is so cool. Thank you for coming to our show, and also I think definitely everybody should check out your book. It's really very fascinating. Thank you, Mark, for coming to our show. Take care and give us feedback and email, Twitter, whatever you like. Address is below. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye bye.